Thank you so much for joining us for CBN News Watch. I'm Efrem Graham. Ahead today, concerns over a widening war in the Middle East after an attack blamed on a group backed by Iran kills 3 American servicemen at a U.S. base in Jordan. Now, how will the Biden administration respond? That's the question. We're going to bring you a closer look at these Iranian-backed militias in the Middle East and how they've been launching attacks against the U.S. and Israeli forces. As the U.S. freezes its funding of UNRWA, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, we're going to hear from Israel's leaders about their concerns that the organization has been used to incite terrorism and hatred against the Jewish state. And lawmakers in Florida proposing a ban on social media for children under 16. We're going to take a look at how that would work. All those stories and more coming up now on CBN News Watch.
This is CBN News Watch.
Let's begin this half hour with the growing concerns over a widening war in the Middle East after an attack on a U.S. base in Jordan that killed 3 American servicemen and injured more than 24 others. As Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem, the attack raises the possibility of a direct conflict between the United States and Iran.
At an event in South Carolina, President Biden announced the U.S. would choose the time and place for its response.
I'm asking for public silence for all 3 of those fallen soldiers. And we shall respond. God bless you all.
The attack also wounded at least 30 soldiers. The base served as a special operations installation to fight ISIS. Iranian-backed militias have attacked U.S. bases in Syria and Iraq more than 170 times since October 17th. The American deaths raise the stakes dramatically in the region.
It's quite clear that the whole players in the region are actually looking to see what will be the United States reaction to that.
Some congressional leaders are calling on Biden to impose crippling costs on the regime, including military strikes inside Iran. Israeli and U.S. conflicts against Iran proxies are spread throughout the region, including Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, who continue attack shipping in and around the Red Sea, and Hamas in Gaza. Avi Melamed is a former Israeli intelligence official. He says the source address of all the conflicts in the region is Iran.
This is the Mullah regime in Tehran. We have today sample of the disastrous vision and future that waits the Middle East and the world if the Mullah regime is not going to be restrained forcefully.
Also over the weekend, the U.S., along with a number of other countries, suspended funding to UNRWA. The New York Times reported Israel presented evidence that UNRWA employees participated in the October 7th attacks, which killed more than 1,200 Israelis. The White House said the suspension of aid might be a first step.
We'll certainly consider additional, depending on the investigation, whether that requires any additional changes in the way we support UNRWA going forward.
The UN says it's investigating the charges, but critics of UNRWA said it's been part of the problem, not the solution, for a long time. Adi Schwartz is the co-author of The War of Return.
I just want to remind you that cases of people working for UNRWA and at the same time working for terrorist organization has begun in the 60s.
Meanwhile, negotiations continue to release the more than 100 hostages in Hamas captivity. Israel said talks have been constructive, but there are still significant gaps. The deal would include a pause in the fighting in exchange for the release of some or all of the hostages.
Chris Mitchell joins us now for more from Jerusalem. So, Chris, do leaders in Israel and elsewhere in the Middle East expect the United States to strike Iranian proxy forces again after this? And will that be enough?
Well, Efrem, right now the region is really waiting to see how the U.S. is going to react. Many Mideast observers believe the U.S. really has to respond forcefully. That was the position of Avi Melamed when we talked to him earlier today, that it needs to send a clear message to Iran and its proxies. And, we expect there'll be a significant escalation one way or the other. There are pros and cons to any action by the U.S. On the one hand, if you strike Iran directly, you're going to escalate the situation. But on the other, a weak response is going to invite more attacks by Iran and its proxies on U.S. forces. We've seen that for the last several months. and then the U.S. would be seen as weak in the region, or even weaker than it's perceived right now. You know, these U.S. bases sitting there in Iraq and Syria, they've been basically sitting ducks for the last several months. More than 170 attacks since mid-October. You know, I saw an ABC report earlier today that said the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff says they don't want to escalate, but he may not have any choice because of what's going on right now in the region and how Iran seems to be escalating the situation on its own.
Indeed. Chris, some Republican leaders here in the United States are pushing the Biden administration to go after Iran. How do you think that might work?
Well, we'll see. You know, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is calling for serious crippling costs. Senator Tom Cotton, he's calling for devastating military retaliation. Another Republican senator says you need to hit the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps and the Quds Force. That's really the main force for Iran. Some people say what's been happening, what the U.S. has been doing for months, is sort of a whack-a-mole strategy, you know, hitting warehouses and launch sites, but that's not going to work right now. The feeling for many is you got to hit the head of the snake, which is Iran, maybe their oil infrastructure. That's something President Reagan did many years ago. On the other hand, Biden is facing criticism from both Republicans and the Democrat Party, and that blame him being too supportive of Israel, and that he really doesn't have any authorization to keep hitting Iran's proxies. So we'll see what happens. He's in a dilemma. He needs prayer for wisdom right now, how to respond.
Indeed. Iran is also behind Hezbollah, which is keeping up its strikes against Israelis along the border with Lebanon. How is Israel eventually going to deal with them?
Well, I think there's eventually going to be some sort of a conflict, and perhaps a major one, Ephraim, between Hezbollah and Israel. Right now, the IDF had a major military exercise on the northern border preparing for an invasion. And right now, the situation on the northern border, you have about 100,000 Israelis that are out of their homes. Some of them are actually here in Jerusalem in hotels. And the IDF has said just in the last few weeks, they're going to give diplomacy an opportunity that would try to get Hezbollah back to, miles from the border. But time's running out, and this would be a much bigger conflict. Ephraim, we've talked about it many times before. Hezbollah is maybe 10 to 15 times the strength of Hamas, so it could be a major conflict.
Let's turn now to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, UNRWA. Multiple countries have joined with the U.S. in suspending funding for UNRWA from an American tax dollars. How serious of a blow is this to the agency?
It's a major blow. I mean, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. The U.S. is the major funder. In the reports that have been coming out in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, and apparently Israel has provided this information, this intelligence to the United States. One of the UNRWA employees was suspected of being involved in the massacre, kidnapped a woman and participated in the massacre at the kibbutz Be'eri, where 97 people were murdered. Another one employee distributed ammunition. And like I said, this is all this intelligence report that Israel gave to the U.S. And a total of maybe 12 of the agency's employees participated in October 7th. And 10 of those are Hamas operatives, one in Islamic Jihad. And 7 of the workers were involved in the attack are also UNRWA school teachers. So this is just evidence of what UNRWA has been so incestuously related into Hamas.
What's the latest on talks for a deal to free the hostages now?
Well, they're talking about maybe a 2-month pause in the fighting in return for some of the hostages or all of the hostages. And, there's a differing points of view, Ephraim, on what that would mean. One of them feels like the pause would favor Hamas. It would allow them to regroup, reposition themselves in the tunnel systems. The other is that it would allow the IDF to regroup and plan their strategy going forward. But there's a sense also that it might stop their momentum. Right now, apparently, they're circling Khan Yunis, which is a major Hamas stronghold on the southern part of the Gaza Strip that's believed where many of the hostages may be, and also the top leaders of Hamas, which would include Yahya Sinwar and Mohammed Deif. And so And I would say, add this one thing, Ephraim. There's a deep sense among many of the IDF troops that they don't want to stop short of victory and make sure that Hamas is never again the kind of threat it was on October 7th when it murdered more than 1,200 Israelis.
Thank you so much, Chris Mitchell, reporting from Jerusalem. Always appreciate your insights, and we continue to pray for you, and we're praying for our staff there. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you.
Coming up, a closer look at UNRWA and why some say Iran is using it to incite terrorism. We're going to examine the militia organizations funded by Iran and the dangers they pose in the Middle East. We're going to have both of those stories for you. It's all coming up when we come back.
Download the CBN News app. One place for all of your news. Breaking news alerts. Watch CBN News Channel live. CBN News, because truth matters. Get the CBN News app today.
Government leaders in Israel have been warning about potential dangers to the Jewish state from the United Nations Relief and Works Agency. It's been going on for years. They accuse UNRWA of using American tax dollars to fuel hatred and terror against Israel. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl is on this story.
Things must change, and it starts with UNRWA.
Knesset member Sharon Haskell created the caucus to reform UNRWA 9 years ago.
UNRWA is an organization of the United Nations that is a complete cover-up for Hamas activities. They are inciting and educating children to violence and hatred.
In caring for so-called Palestinian refugees living in the West Bank and Gaza Strip, as well as nearby countries, UNRWA's website says its services include primary and vocational education, primary health care, relief and social services, and camp improvement.
We need to understand that UNRWA is not an organization that provides education and welfare and health care. That's merely the facade. It's an organization that has two deep roles: to ensure that the conflict from 1948 remains an open case, and therefore that there is a permanent question mark on Israel's very existence, creating a generation after generation of Palestinians who believe that one day Israel will not exist.
Dr. Anat Wilf adds, UNRWA relieves Hamas of any humanitarian responsibility, a philosophy confirmed by senior Hamas member Musa Abu Marzouk, who said, these tunnels are meant to protect Hamas from Israeli planes, and it's the responsibility of the UN to protect the people.
There's a generation that does not know that UNRWA was started in order to undermine the state of Israel. Count Falk Bernadette, who was the first UN mediator, he was upset with the right of the law of return.
That law allows Jews worldwide to immigrate to Israel.
So he said the Palestinians have to have the right of return, and their inalienable right to go back to where they came from in 48, instead of being, absorbed like any other refugee.
David Bedin started Israel Behind the News to expose teachings and practices going on inside UN facilities in Gaza and the West Bank.
We have been through 1,000 school books used by the Palestinian Authority and UNRWA. We were offered by a prominent rabbi $10,000 for a research grant to find anything for peace. I said, look, I'd like to have your money, but it doesn't exist. It is one system, not for hatred, but for murder.
Knesset member Simcha Rotman says UNRWA funding needs to stop.
So the fact that UNRWA gets money as a donation, and this money supports terror, actively supports terror, needs to stop. There is no excuse for educating for terror. There is no excuse for facilitating the next October 7th.
Wilf says, unfortunately, Israel cooperated with UNRWA for years, thinking it was a moderating force.
Israel has to do a 180 and declare quite clearly that it will no longer cooperate with UNRWA. UNRWA provides no benefit, and no country that is a friend of Israel should give any money to UNRWA.
The United Nations is a hornet's nest of Jew hatred, is a hornet's nest of deception, is a hornet's nest of terror-supporting policies and organizations.
Dan Diker of the Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs says Gaza has become a forward base for the Iranian regime.
Today, it's the Iranian regime that is mobilizing UNRWA with its Hamas proxy to incite to the murdering of Jews and Israelis, to carry out acts of terror. They have sanctified as a strategic objective the destruction of Israel from within UNRWA compounds and organizations within Gaza.
Diker believes the U.S. should lead an international body to supervise UNRWA donations until it can be dissolved and responsibility given to local Palestinians. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
In addition to concerns over UNRWA, Iran has long been funding proxy militias in the Middle East, and they've been launching waves of attacks against the United States and Israeli forces in the region and increasing the possibility of a wider war in the Middle East. George Thomas brings us this look at these deadly forces supported by Iran.
The Islamic mullahs in Tehran have dubbed it their axis of resistance.
What the supreme leader there calls his ring of fire around Israel is to build up these terror groups, these proxies for Iran, to do the fighting for Iran so that Iran doesn't have anybody come knocking on its doorstep.
Since Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th, Iranian proxies in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Yemen have dramatically upped their strikes against Israel and U.S. interests in the region.
Iran didn't arm and equip and train and finance the Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, Shia militia groups in Iraq to use these resources for their own benefit at their own discretion. Iran did all that so it would have a capability through its proxies to act as it's acting now.
The U.S. responding with attacks on the proxy militias.
We have taken military action against sites in Iraq and Syria that are also tied to the IRGC, which supports these militias. We have said quite clearly that we hold Iran responsible for the groups, the proxies that it supports and that it provides weapons to.
Iran's Revolutionary Guard forces in just the past week have also launched direct attacks on 3 of their close neighbors, Iraq, Syria, and Pakistan. These multiple flashpoints now causing concern of a much broader conflict pitting Iran and its allies against Israel and the United States.
It just shows just how dangerous the situation is in the wider Middle East.
It's all part of their strategy, but ultimately, they want us to be fighting these tentacles so that we get bogged down and distracted. What we really need to focus on is the head of the octopus, and that's Iran.
Richard Goldberg, who handled the Iranian portfolio at the White House National Security Council, says such actions show Iran is clearly undeterred and has no reason to rein in its proxies, whether it's Houthi rebels targeting shipping vessels in the Red Sea or militias attacking our U.S. troops in Syria.
But remember, Iran is looking at the big picture here, and the Biden administration's policy is still to give money to Iran while all of this is going on. We have $10 billion flowing from a Biden sanctions waiver today that the Iranians are benefiting from.
George Thomas, CBN News.
Still ahead, lawmakers in Florida considering a ban on social media for children younger than 16. We're going to take a look at how that would work right after this. One state could soon become the first to place a ban on social media. Florida lawmakers are considering a bill that will prohibit anyone from under the age of 16 from signing up to join social media platforms. As national security correspondent Caitlin Burke explains, this law takes a different approach from past attempts to protect children by regulating big tech.
From state houses to Capitol Hill, lawmakers have struggled to crack down on social media platforms. This new bill making its way through the Florida legislature could finally limit big tech's access to children.
It's not designed to address the content per se, which may receive certain First Amendment protections, but it's designed to address the addictive qualities, the addictive features of social media.
It's like a digital fentanyl, and even the most plugged-in parent
or a tuned teen has a hard time shutting the door against these addictive features.
The Florida House passed HB 1, which would include the following: a ban on anyone younger than 16 from creating an account on certain social media sites, the requirement that platforms use a third-party age verification service, and it would also require terminating current accounts of all users under the age of 16. Melissa Henson, Vice President of Programs for the Parents Television and Media Council, believes this bill could withstand attempts by big tech to shut it down.
I think we can fully expect a challenge from the social media companies if this bill is passed, but I still think it's an important first step, and if nothing else, a warning shot to these media companies that they need to clean up their act.
While Florida lawmakers did not call out specific tech companies, they point out regulations would apply to any social media site that tracks user activity, allows children to upload content, or uses addictive features designed to cause compulsive use. Meanwhile, in New York City, another approach to protecting kids online, with Mayor Eric Adams classifying social media as a public health hazard and an environmental toxin.
We cannot stand by and let big tech monetize our children's privacy and jeopardize their mental health.
Let's have different states try different proposals and see which ones are the most effective. And once we figure out which solutions are getting to the heart of the problem most efficiently, then that can become the model legislation to be adopted in other states.
The New York advisory urges parents to delay giving kids access to a smartphone until the age of 14. And in Florida, the social media bill still needs the approval of the Senate and the governor. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Washington.
Coming back with an encouraging word for your day ahead. Stay with us. Time now for your Monday Motivation. Today I want to leave you with this thought as we begin the week. We are nearly a month into the new year and all those new goals, new plans, and new visions for more in 24. No doubt, many have messed up, slipped up, or even fallen off. But know this, you don't have to wait for a new year, a new month, or even a new week to begin again. You awake to fresh grace and fresh mercy daily, and it's sufficient for the day. Today is a great day to begin again. Well, that is going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. I want to remind you, you can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel. You can find them there at any time, as well as online. That's cbnnews.com. Take a moment. Let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today or any day. You can do that by emailing us. That address is newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can always reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We certainly love to hear from you. Thank you so much for joining us for this Monday. We look forward to seeing you right back here, same time tomorrow. Goodbye, God bless, and thank you so much for watching.